Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So basically I've come up with again another video on Java interview questions that has been recently asked in Infosys interviews. This will help you not in Infosys but any of the Java developer role or software engineering role that requires Java and Spring Boot. So in this video today I'll explain you everything about Infosys hiring process and what kind of questions they ask. It's just not about questions that they ask but also how they have discussions around the topics, right? What are the cross questions that comes during the interviews? So in order to understand this fully, please watch the complete video. I'll discuss one by one the questions and the way students have explained me, like how they were cross questioned during the interviews, right? So I'll explain everything. And if you like this document, if you want this document, I'll tell you in between the video how you can get this document as well, right? So you have to submit one form and you will easily get the document. There are some criteria I have set. Okay, so if you do that, for sure you will get the document as well. You can keep it for any kind of interviews. I hope this will help you. So without any delay, let's just get back to the video. Okay, so I'm on this document. I'll go through one by one each of the questions and we'll have a discussion around it. Okay. So starting with my favorite questions that has been asked multiple times and in not in Infosys only, but in any of the Java interviews, this becomes very important question. Okay, and it is not a single line question. Like first they can ask you what is singleton in Java, right? Then they will have the cross questions like what are its breaking condition and how you can prevent it. So basically you can explain singleton. I've given what is singleton actually. So it will have a single global instance that is used for different purposes, especially for database connections or the loggings and driver objects kind of, right? And then there are four breaking conditions actually: reflection, serialization, cloning, and multi-threading, right? So you'll get the information around it. Then it comes how you can implement. They may ask you to write code, share your screen and write the code. So you can see that I have given a basic example of singleton class where we are creating a singleton instance actually, and then a singleton class ka instance. And basically you can see what is volatile keyword, right? It becomes very important to have these smaller things to know. So I've added in the document in the comment section actually. You can find it out, a discussion around it. So you'll have the information around it also. And then how you can prevent it, basically you have to override the methods and you can prevent it. Like here a clone, right? Clone is where you can create an instance of a class, but here you can prevent it by overriding the clone method that throws an exception, right? So you must know this thing. And then comes to the second question: what is auto configuration? A basic definition around the Spring Boot, right? So you must know these are very small questions. I'll not discuss in depth because these are single questions that's asked to check what is your knowledge. So I've given a complete information around it. Then again comes the annotation. There are a lot of questions around the annotation, so you must know some of the basic annotation, right? So here primary and qualifier, for what purposes they are used actually. So they are used to select the beans, especially when there are multiple beans with the same name, right? So in the qualifier you provide explicitly the bean name. So here I've given a basics example, right? And then one line difference. So you can easily actually memorize these things. You can understand and memorize. It won't create an issue because it is documented and in a very well documented with an example and use cases as well. So basics are definition around what is idempotent, right? I've given a definition. You can go through and understand, right? Where it is used and how or what are the conditions of it. Then this is very important questions with respect to Java, how Java programs execute actually, right? So what is class loader and types of class loader? So basically you can see I've given this document. So dot class file is being loaded by the class loader subsystem. Uh, in the runtime areas, it gets memory allocated in different sections like method area, heap, Java stack, right? And then other basic connections I've given. So you can go through the document. A definition I have also tried to put out here, right? So these are just basic question and they have kind of a definition. You must know it. Then we have a difference between heap memory and stack memory. A very easy question, but you must not skip it. You must explain it, the important points like heap is used to create a dynamic memory allocation. A static is created in this stack, right? And then examples, a basic example you can throw out over there. Then again, annotation, as I asked you, there will be a lot of questions based on the annotation. So what is configuration and bean annotation, right? So definition I've given. Why is string immutable in Java? Basically, we all understand that strings are immutable in Java, but they will not ask you direct questions why, whether a string is immutable or immutable, but they will ask why it is immutable in Java, right? So you can explain them. I've given in details. Basically, the short answer will be string is used for so many important connections, right? So in order to make those connections safe, we have this immutable strings, right? So they cannot be modified easily, right? Then a very important question, then how you can write your own immutable class in Java? There are few steps that helps you to write immutable class. So firstly, I've given what are the conditions, like mark the class as final, mark all the fields as a final and private, provide no setter, there won't be any setter method, only getters will be there, right? Then you can see this a basic example of the implementation I've given. So they ask you, when you explain them the concept, okay, this way I can create, then they immediately ask you, can you create it? Just share your screen and create one immutable class. So you must show the examples. I've given basic example, immutable person class I've created. Okay, the similar way I've explained in the definition. Okay, again, very important, controller annotation in this Spring, right? So it's a standard MVC annotation. Then they'll come up with the questions like this was given by multiple students, like how you can create controller without having this controller annotation. So there are different ways actually. I've given below, you can find it. What does controller do actually? So basics example around it, how to create controller without controller annotation, right? So this I was discussing, and there are different ways. Option one, using component and request mapping with example. Then option two, using simple URL handle mapping, and then controller interface. Examples I've given, proper examples for sure. Then some I've summarized kind of this whole. Then there was questions around the stream API. There will be a lot of questions. I'll prepare separate video on these stream APIs. These are very important nowadays, right? So a lot of questions, coding questions are asked based on these stream APIs. So in one such question that was asked was to filter out the loans with incomplete status using Java 8 features, right? So I've given this small, so like basically you take a list of loans, then convert it to a stream, then you apply a filter method, pass a lambda method, right? Check status not null and it's not empty, then you collect it at a as a list. So a basic example is given. Then why these methods actually I've given. So this will help you to understand this in a deep. What are the starter dependencies of Spring Boot module? A definition and what it is actually given. Difference between string buffer and string builder. I hope you know it, right? So string is immutable, but other two are mutable, and they are synchronized actually. So they are one of them is synchronized, one of them is not synchronized. So one is thread safe, another is not thread safe. So one is used for single threading and another is for multi-threading actually. Okay, so these are basic difference. Then enable debugging logs in the Spring Boot. So you must know this, how you set the properties, right? In order to enable the loggings in Spring Boot application. Basic definition around root application context in Spring MVC. Then again, difference between comparator and comparable, right? A definition with example. This will help you to understand few basic questions that was asked right away on the internet kind of stuff. So one of such was FQDN, right? Fully qualified domain name. So definition I've given, you must know it. Working principle of an array is very easy questions, but you must know how to explain it, right? Dynamic array, then capacity management, those points you should put out. It's an easy one, but yeah, you must know it. So handling an exception in Java. Actually, this is one of favorite topics, and this will for sure ask in any of the interviews, right? How you can explain it? Like there are 4 5 keywords that you must know. So first is type of exceptions. So we have checked, unchecked exceptions, right? Then you must understand the exception class, because using this you can create your custom exception, right? Then how you can handle the exception. So one way is using try and catch block. The other ways is like there are two more keywords, through and throws, so you know the difference of both. And then finally, why do we use finally? So you understand these 4 5 things, and this will cover across all the exception handling concepts in your Java application, right? Then, okay, again comes the custom exception, right? How you can create your own custom exceptions. This is very important questions, and for sure, many times I've seen questions on this, right? Then again, difference between checked versus unchecked exception. So you can understand from this definition. I'll not go depth. Closing database connection in try and finally blocks. There were questions actually that were tricky. They just wanted to understand what is your knowledge, just not you have memorize things, but you also understand actually. So this is like they were asking, can we close the database connection in the try block also in the finally? So the answer is no, because if try executes, right, and you have closed the connections, uh, and again you try to close it in the finally, there might be an issue, right? So you should not do this practice. So that's why I've given this definition, and you can get it from the examples as well. Then we have a standard abstract class and interface oops ka concept, right? The difference between both of them. Why do we use, what different purposes they serve? So you must know. Thread, different types of thread, basically user thread and daemon thread. A small example. I hope some below I've given in detail actually. So properties of MVC routes, right? So you must understand. Routes map specific HTTP requests like get post to controller methods, right? So understand it and have some implementation. I hope you have done during this Springboard project, but yeah, for a definition purpose, you know. There are a lot of questions on Java 8 features. So one such was, what are the predefined interfaces? So we have these 4 predefined interfaces in Java. There are several, but you must know these 4. Then what is garbage collector in Java? Basic example. Dependency injection, very easy, but ask most of the time. Using auto-wide annotation, you can achieve it, right? Features of Lambda expression. Lambda expression provides clean and concise way of implementing functional interface, right? They'll also ask you to implement a functional interface using Lambda expression, okay? So you must know the question somewhere. I hope I have discussed this in this document. So basic definition around Hibernate, lazy loading. What is the lazy loading? Current hash map works. How concurrent hash map works in Java? Okay, routing in MVC. So these are definitions I've given. What is Hibernate caching? Generally, these topics we left out, right? But as a definition, you should know how you can explain well how MVC works in Spring, right? So model view control, how they work. So a basic around it. Role of MVC components. Okay, model view controller again. Then Spring Boot actuator, a definition around it. Changing a embedded server in Spring Boot, how you can change it, right? Permutation of a string wrap. Okay, write a program actually wrap stands for. So it is very popular lead code medium problem, right? Where you have to generate all the um, permutations of a string like ABC will be given. So I've used this one such way, like recursive way to solve this problem, right? But there will be so many other problems that you will see below. So difference between runnable and callable. Yes, definitions has been given. Session interface in Hibernate, right? Difference between view and partial view. Definition, basically key difference and definition. Where to use constructor injection, right? I've discussed this with an example. Aggregate and terminal operations in Java 8 Stream API, right? So methods again. Stream API are such important questions that like so many questions are from the Stream APIs. So aggregator operation and then terminal operation. So basically after terminal operation, nothing left to process. So you cannot process the data. So this is the final step in the Stream APIs, right? Then again, difference between save or operate in Hibernate. A lot of questions were there from this. Difference between these, right? Jar var and .er, right? So I've given a basics example, right? WebRQ and Java archive, and enterprise archive, right? Combination of both. So you must know the definition of these three and explain it well, like which one is having what. Then another technical questions that were asked were explain your application architecture. So basically, if you are Java developer, they will ask you what is your application architecture in your organization and what kind of projects you have handled. So you must know how you are going to explain it. What is current architecture of your project, or if you have done some project for the placement only, so you must know how you can explain it. Using these points, you can easily explain, right? So this can help you to explain your projects actually. Find length of a string without using length. Okay, basics again, interview questions, right? We have here. What is serializable interface in Java? Okay, so this I've given. So basically, you can see a small example also is given here, right? So this will help you to understand. What is transient variable? Example I have explained. Difference between array list and linked list. Okay, these are very well known questions, but you must know clear way to explain these things. There should not be any if or but in explanation. It should be very clear and concise. Program to find the number of occurrence of character in a file, right? Okay, so basics program I've given. You know this. You should know these problems. Why do we go for JP and EJB? Can we use any other framework? A discussion. These points will have a discussion. How to log a class? What are ways to achieve synchronization? Okay, basic around it I've given. Then there were some advanced topics that a lot of students have shared. Like these topics were covered as a discussion actually, not just one point. They ask you to explain. Then there will be multiple scenarios and other questions that were asked. So one says it discussion around serialization and deserialization discussion. So what are the points inside these? If I cover it will take a lot of time, but yeah, I have tried to summarize all this with proper example. You can find it out. Another point was volatile type in Java. Okay, again, I talked you earlier, like we have uh, a detailed discussion around it. So this is the one you can get all the information around it with example, explanation, key points to remember. Okay, then again there will be discussion around thread and multi-threading in Java in depth. So you must understand all of this. So a lot of points I've covered it, how you can implement it. Actually implement is using a runnable interface, and the another way is using extending the thread class, right? So these points I've given. Thread life cycle, what it is, thread synchronization, synchronized blocks. Okay, a lot of questions. Again, synchronized block, and then some of the questions around it you can find it out here. Thread safety, what are the thread safety? Okay, okay, these points. Example, making the object thread safe. These are very depth discussions. If you go through a document, you will understand it completely. I'll try to make separate video on thread and multi-threading. I'll provide it, but here I'm just discussing basic thing and how you can implement it easily. Then I've tried to summarize. Other important question that comes up is microservices architecture in detail. A lot of questions will be from microservices for sure. So you must understand architecture completely. I have covered a lot of points here in this document that will give you complete information and its implementation in the Java. Okay, so you can see a lot of code snippets and what are the one way points. I mean, the stepwise process to implement it, right? So these informations you can easily get it from here. Then thread types, again, we have discussed this one way questions like user thread and daemon thread, right? So basics are definition, discussion, example around it. What are the key points between them? Key differences I have given. Okay, so this is really important. You must know. Again, a standard Java predefined functional interfaces that I discussed the 4 5, right? Here are more, and they have discussed within examples here. So you must understand these topics in a depth in order to show your strength in Java and Spring Boot, right? Yes. So another important, okay, this marks the end of the document. I think these are the questions that can really help you. Okay, you must um, understand it and prepare fully on these questions. Okay, I'll try to add more questions around it, but yeah, I hope this will help you to gain more knowledge and this will help you to crack your interviews actually. Okay, All the very best for your interviews. And if you are new to my channel, I would request to please subscribe my channel and help me to stay motivated to prepare such document. It takes a lot of time in preparing these documents. So I hope you acknowledge the work that I've done. And if you want this document, I've given link in the description. And if you like this video and subscribe my channel, and once you fill the form, immediately you will get the uh, document link. Okay, and I'll try to add questions in this document as I discuss with students, and I get some more questions. I'll try to add all those in this document. All the very best with your preparation.